And it's very interesting because it changed. In the book, in our book, it's different. So if in our book it's 6549, I guess we had to combine several other numbers. So I'm going to stick with what I have up here, 16807, but know that in the book, we had to change the numbers a little bit to make everything balance. Sometimes we have to do that to keep it simple. Now let's talk a little bit about how stock is issued. Stock it's a piece of paper and it represents ownership in the company. So when a company issues stock to stockholders, it literally gives the stockholders a piece of paper and says, here, now you're an owner in the company. And the stockholders can do whatever they want with that. So what they can do if they want is they can sell that stock to other stockholders, and they could sell it to other stockholders. That's what the stock market's all about, where investors are buying and selling shares of stock in different companies. The company doesn't really care who owns its stock. It has to keep track of that information, and those people can vote in what's called proxy votes. But overall, it doesn't make a difference to a corporation exactly who the stockholders are, as long they're just out there. So but once that stock is out there, a company can decide to buy it back. So the company can say, you know what, let's increase the demand, the supply and demand chart. What happens if you reduce the supply of something? If you reduce the supply of something and the demand stays the same, then the price is going to go up. My son was asking, we were looking at the Wall Street Journal, and they have these ads in the Wall Street Journal for these ridiculously expensive cameras. Have you ever seen these things? They're digital cameras. I mean, and they cost anywhere from $5,000, $12,000 for a camera. And I'm thinking to myself, and I said this to my son, I said, why would anyone pay $12,000? Look at this camera, it's beautiful, but why would anyone pay $12,000 for a camera? And he's like, well, they should wait till it goes on clearance. And it's a smart kid. And I said, well, I doubt it's going to be on sale for, $100 at Micro Center anytime soon. And I said, well, everything does sooner or later, it's going to be obsolete, and then the stores just want to get rid of it. It's 12 years old, smart kid. But why wouldn't it go on sale for $100 in Micro Center in a year or so when it's obsolete? It's a 14 megapixel camera, whatever it is. Maybe it's 20 megapixels, but still, everybody's going to have 20 megapixel cameras in a few years. Yeah.
Why won't it go down in a year or so?
Yeah, why don't they put it on sale when the new model comes out?
Because there's still a chance that people still buy it. Because most likely the newer model will still be more expensive than the previous one.
Oh, so they'll come out with a $15,000 model. So everybody will rush to get the $12,000 model.
It will look more appealing if it.
Yeah.
It will look more, and if not, it won't go down to 100. Well, anytime soon, but they might a small decrease depending on whether they can afford
to $8,000 and $9,000. How would they prevent that from happening? Because when you make $12,000 cameras, it's a good idea not to make any extras, right? Like you make exactly the number that you think you need, and if you're not sure, you make fewer. Because the last thing you want to do is you want to put these things on clearance, right? It's apparently some kind of status symbol to have a camera with exotic wood or whatever it is. Well, it's going to be the same thing with stock, believe it or not. What you can do with stock is, if you want to raise your stock price, you can buy back shares of stock. That will reduce the supply of stock shares in your company, and it should increase the price. So it's a well-known fact, I dare say fact, it's a well-known fact that buying back stock increases your stock price. And stock that you buy back is called treasury stock. So what happens when you issue stock is you're going to increase stockholders' equity. When you buy back stock, i.e. treasury stock, it's called that because when you buy it back, you literally get the stock back and you put it into your treasury, which is like a vault. So when you have treasury stock, that's going to reduce your stockholders' equity. And you can see it over here that it's a negative number, treasury stock is a negative number because it's negative stock. It's stock that you issued to your stockholders and then you bought back. Now, there's a term I want you to be familiar with here, and that's the number of shares authorized, issued, and outstanding. Shares authorized, when you become a corporation, has anyone here ever registered a corporation to start a business? So when you start a business and you set up a corporation, the corporation is going to have stock. And what they actually do is, you can start a corporation for a few $100s, mycorporation.com or something like that, and they'll send you a binder of stuff, and it's all your different legal forms. Included in there is a pile of stock certificates. So whoever the owners are going to be, you give each one of them a stock certificate, and they're owners in the corporation. It's not bogus, it's real. So the number of shares authorized is the total number of shares that you're allowed to issue as a corporation. And when you establish yourself as a corporation, it's usually set up, you determine how many shares are authorized. Now, that can be changed later on, usually by paying a fee. But the number authorized is the maximum number of shares that you can issue. To issue shares, obviously, is going to be to sell them usually to stockholders. But the number of shares issued then would be the total number of shares that you actually sold to stockholders. Now, treasury shares are shares which you sold to stockholders and then you bought back. So the number of shares outstanding, that is the number of shares that stockholders are actually holding on to, is the total number of shares issued minus the treasury shares. So it's shares issued minus treasury shares equals shares outstanding. So now let's answer a few more questions here. And here, by the way, you can see, if you look at American Eagle, if you look here at American Eagle, you'll see that they show you the number of shares outstanding. Right over here. If you look at their balance sheets, you'll see that and all companies do this, they tell you the number of shares issued, authorized the number of shares issued, and the number of shares outstanding. So here, for example, American Eagle has 600,000 shares authorized, 249,566 issued as of the end of this year, and then 192,000 shares outstanding. That would be the number of shares issued minus the number of treasury shares equals 192,604, the number of shares outstanding. So in this fact pattern that we have, for preferred shares, if you look, there are, let's look here, there are 5,000 shares authorized, but none issued or outstanding. So 5,000 shares authorized, but 0 issued and 0 outstanding. And I found this on the balance sheet. And the statement of stockholders' equity will also give you this information. Actually, they don't even give you the information about the preferred shares. They're only giving you information about the common because there are no preferred shares. So the common share information is given to you here, and it tells you the number of shares issued and outstanding down at the bottom. So for common shares at January 29th, 2011, and so let's look at the here. There are 600,000 shares authorized. And there are, if you look over here, how many shares issued? It tells us right here, 249,566. And the number of shares outstanding, if you look, is 194,366. On January 29, 2011, for common stock, The number of shares issued is 249,566, as we saw before. The number of shares in treasury stock, it's shown right here, is 56,962. I'm sorry, 55,200 as of January 29, 2011. 55,200. Would give you the number of shares outstanding of 194,366. Now, on January 29th, 2011, there are how many shares of common stock issued? Again, 194,366. For a total contribution of, that would be contributed capital, sorry about that, that would be 546,597 plus the common stock, or 549,093. So that would average how much per share? We'll go 549,093 divided by 194 comes to about $3 a share. And how many shares of treasury stock are there? We already determined up here that there are, sorry, we already determined up here that there are 55,200 shares. So the total treasury stock, I'm sorry, with total cost of 938,023. Where did that come from? $938,023. Sorry about that. That's right over there as the total for treasury stock. So that would average 938,023 divided by 55,200 is $17 per share. So why is the average cost of common shares different from the average cost of treasury shares? I'll let you answer that. Yes.
Common shares than treasury stock?
There are more common. But think about it for a second. Treasury stock is common shares. It's just common shares the company owns. In other words, the company owns its own stock. So it's the same, they're the same shares. But why would the price be so different? The amount of money they contributed capital for which they issued the stock versus the amount of money they buy it back for. They issued the stock for average of $3 a share, and then they bought it back for $17 a share. Why is there such a big difference? Yes?
Is it because the company, their stock is getting more expensive?
Yeah, that's just it. It's when they first issued the stock, they issued it for $3. Over the years, the value of the stock has gone up. So now when they're ready to buy the stock back, the value of the stock has gone all the way up to $17 now. So that is a profit to the stockholders who bought it way back when. So the answer is quite simply because the value of the stock has increased. Oh, we have another one. Statement of stockholders' equity. You know, I'm going to pull up the simplified one, I think. Give me a second here.